The Russian government today issuing a blistering rebuke of President Trump's new national security strategy, which says Russia aims to weaken U.S. influence in the world. The Kremlin calls Trump's strategy, quote, confrontational, anti-Russian, and says America wants to interfere in Russian politics. Putin's influential spokesman also slammed the Trump plan for projecting American ambitions.
The document has an imperialist character. It shows a lack of willingness to give up on a single-centered world.
Analysts say the hard-hitting response to the new American policy is likely Putin playing politics at home, that he might feel he has to tell Russians publicly that Trump and his team are being antagonistic toward Russia because of certain passages in Trump's security plan. In a speech on Monday, the president made a passing reference to Russia.
We also face rival powers, Russia and China, that seek to challenge American influence, values, and wealth.
But the president's strategy document, which was drafted by his national security team, delivers a much stronger rebuke of the Kremlin, alluding to Russian interference in the U.S. election. It's a dramatic change, given that Mr. Trump repeatedly praised the Russian president and has seemingly accepted Putin's denial over the U.S. intelligence community's finding of Russian election meddling. So is the bromance between the president and Putin cooling off? Analysts say it could be at a crossroads.
Any kind of implementation of sanctions, depending on the final outcome of the investigations in terms of intervention in the U.S. elections and U.S. democracy, potentially could create a hostility or dampen the relationship between the two men.
Others say don't count out the two men's desire to get along. Trump this week talked about building a, quote, great partnership with Russia, and today's Russian statement mentioned the same. And there have been kind words on a personal level between the two leaders recently, too. Trump thanked Putin over the phone after Putin's praise of Trump at his yearly news conference.
Objectively, we can see a number of fairly serious achievements over the short period he's been at work. Look at the markets, for example.
And last weekend, Putin thanked President Trump for a recent intelligence tip from the CIA, which the Russians say helped them foil a terrorist plot in St. Petersburg. A former top U.S. intelligence official, James Clapper, who has offered withering criticism of Trump, says Putin, a former KGB colonel, played the president.
I think this past weekend is illustrative of what a great case officer Vladimir Putin is. He knows how to handle an asset, and that's what he's doing with the president.
Analysts say despite today's angry public rhetoric from the Kremlin, flattering Trump in private conversations is Putin's way of trying to get Trump to help him with sanctions or other issues.
He is able to talk to Trump in a way that he views as, productive or beneficial to his interests. I think almost everything he says publicly, he understands at this point, is more likely to do him harm than good, so he's very careful about it.
Now, analysts say Putin's relationship with Trump may not get much, if any, better after Putin wins re-election in March. They say Putin at that point is going to be struggling to keep Russia's economy afloat, and he's going to be obsessed with whether to try to stay in power when his next term runs out 6 years later. And one way Putin has always been able to stay popular with Russians is to project an us versus them mentality with the U.S.